mothers, who would be fathers. And I want to use as a backdrop for the exhortation, the narrative in the scripture, the portion that was read earlier, the book of Genesis, chapter 42, there in verse 29 through 38. And in this portion we find an account of a father who felt or thought or believed everything was against him. Every once in a while in our lives we come to that juncture where we feel that everything is against us.
Yes.
We feel that everybody is against us. And there comes a time when nothing seems to be going right. If we remember or recall the account in the story of Jacob and Joseph. Jacob had 12 sons, and he had a very special love for Joseph. As a matter of fact, the account says that he gave Joseph a very special coat. They call it a coat of many colors. Jacob had 12 sons: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Zebulun, Issachar, Dan, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Joseph, and Benjamin. Jacob thought, based on a certain set of circumstances and events, he was led to believe that his favorite son was dead. And whilst that was occurring simultaneously, Joseph had become second in command in Egypt. A famine sent Jacob's sons, except Benjamin, to get food in Egypt. And if time had allowed, I could speak to us concerning the providence of God. And the providence of God, the hidden hand of God in our lives and in our circumstances, in our situations, we never understand. That's why it is called the providence of God.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Joseph, who was in charge of distributing food, had a plan to bring his family to him. Had a plan to be reunited with his family. So while these guys, except Benjamin, went to Egypt to get food, you know the account, that Simeon was held hostage while the Prime Minister Joseph told them, "You guys are spies." So they said, no, we're not spies. That's 12 of us. One is dead. That's the Prime Minister Joseph to whom they were speaking. And there is a little one, wash belly. My father won't let him out of his sight. My father has such a love for him. Benjamin, he is with my father. Benjamin must be brought back to Egypt in order for Simeon to be released. What a situation. Sometimes when things seem out of whack already, then it seems like it's just getting worse. Here, one was already held hostage, and in order for him to be released, the son who was the father's heartbeat was now to be brought to Egypt. Jacob lamented, and one could probably understand this. He lamented, he said, "All these things are against me." May I suggest that by this time, Jacob was weary. Sometimes there are some things in life, they just wear us out. Yes. If it is not one thing, it's the other. The physical illness compounded with the financial deficiencies compared alongside the other things, the emotional stress, the bad attitude and behavior of persons, pressure on the job, or maybe the absence of a job, the unexpected behavior of the child, the son or daughter you raised and thought that they would come up to take their place right beside you. Am I talking to somebody? All right. The pressure of life, you just begin to lose stuff, and the hold or grip or stability you thought you would enjoy, it just disappeared. Hello? All so unexpectedly. You will be removed or are removed from a place of stability, from a place of relative permanence, so to speak. So by this chain of events, Jacob was weary. Weary people are weak people. Can't take much. Don't want to talk to anybody. Don't want to hear anybody. No, even if you're bringing good news, somebody calls you, what? You don't want to hear it. Maybe you're afraid because you've heard enough. Because you've been through enough. Because you've been beaten. Because you've been weary. Because your dreams have not been materialized. And you stand and watch other persons of less, how should I say, of less character, of less moral stability. Am I talking to somebody? You stand and watch them seemingly making seeming progress. Everything they touch seem to prosper. Think I'm lying, ask the psalmist in Psalm number 73. I was envious with the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. They don't seem to have any trouble. They are not sick. They don't have high blood pressure. They don't have diabetes. They don't have a kidney problem. Am I talking to somebody? They don't steal their car. Their children have grown up and they are in good schools and they have graduated with their degrees and they have accomplished. Am I talking to somebody here? Yeah. And then David asked God in that context, am I serving you for naught? After all, why am I serving you? People are saying, well, what's the point? As a matter of fact, there is a similar situation where Job's wife said, listen man, this God business and this Christian thing and this serving God and this church thing is not making sense. Curse God and die. Why are you still holding on to your faith? So the years had taken toll on this tired father. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm talking to a father who is just so tired. I'm tired. And maybe your children would have come or may have called and said, but Daddy, you're different these days. And your response might be, I'm just tired. Hello, somebody. See, the supposed death of Joseph caused him great grief. Sometimes people are grieving and you don't even know. Sometimes person's attitude towards you are so wretched or so miserable. You're just trying to be kind. You're just trying to be a brother or a sister, and then you believe that it is something you did. Ain't nothing you did. It's the grief that is eroding the inner being of the individual. He loved his son, and he was made to understand that he was dead. Are you with me? Jacob had experienced God's love and faithfulness in the past. Like many of us, we've experienced the goodness of God in the past. And then when trouble comes, when grief sets in, when hardship comes, when agony and disappointment and sorrow and distress and all kinds of situation comes, we tend to forget the blessings and faithfulness of God in the past. Oh God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blasts, and our eternal home. We don't freely and quickly quote the great hymns, great is thy faithfulness, O God. My Father, there is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not thy compassions. They fail not as thou hast been. Thou forever wilt be. Well, at that time we are in no position even to remember the goodness of God. You see, God had been faithful to him in the past. In the book of Genesis, chapter 28, he had an experience with God. He dreamed of a ladder to heaven. God had promised him blessings to come. Genesis 28, 13, 15. Jacob met with angels. He received a new name. Genesis chapter 32. But fatigue and grief are now causing great problems for this father. His situation may have changed, but God did not change. And you see, that's the mistake we make so often. Because our situation changed, we just conclude that God has changed. Or that God has changed his attitude towards us. And then we say to God, you call yourself a forgiving God, and then just because I did this, and just because I did this, and just because that, and situation, you just change like that. And then we begin to interpret God in human terms. But fatigue and grief and problems can cause our faith to falter. But God is still faithful. And I wanted to let you know this morning that no matter what you're going through, no matter how difficult your situation is, no matter what the disappointments and the despondency that you may have encountered or may be encountering, that God is still faithful. Somebody give the Lord some praise in this house. May I suggest, my brothers and sisters, not only that Jacob was weary, but Jacob was worried. You see, losing Joseph and Simeon troubled Jacob. And now he envisioned Benjamin being lost like their brothers. So you hear him say, listen, there is a famine in the land. First of all, long time ago, my very sons sold my favorite son into slavery. And the word is that, no way, the boy was grown in such a very, so delicately and in such a special way. He can't survive Egypt. He can't survive the terrain of the rough world. I never trained him that way. But if God be for us, who can be against us? God will see to it not only that you are blessed, but that whatever is yours, blessed. God will see to it that not only that you are protected, but that whatever is called by your name to be protected. That includes your children and your grandchildren. God will bless them for your sake. Am I talking to somebody? How many of you remember that when God got ready to rain fire and brimstone upon Sodom and Gomorrah, that God remembered Abraham, his friend, and God knew that Lot was down there, and God somehow just temporarily seized the situation and sent angels to escort Lot out of Egypt, and God did that maybe not for Lot, but God did it because of his friend Abraham. Can I have a witness in the house? Little did Jacob realize that it was all right. Long time ago we used to sing the chorus, it is all right, all right. As long as I have my Lord beside me, it is all right. As long as I have his hands to hold, as long as he's watching over my soul, as long as I am under his control, it is all right. Can I get a witness in the house? All hell may break loose, but you can say it is all right. You may lose some stuff, but you can say it's all right. You may lose some health, lose some money, lose some friends, lose some property, lose some esteem, but you can still say it is all right. And I tell you what Job said, even though he slay me, oh, I wish I had a witness here. Even though he slay me, I'm just getting ready to praise him. Call me stupid if you have to. See, the fatigue now comes in. He envisioned that Benjamin is going to be lost with Joseph and Simeon. So he said, I've already lost 2 sons. And you want to take Benjamin, but I'm not going to do it. He was worried. And maybe you are worried this morning. Father, can tell your wife how worried you are. Can tell your children, your daughter to whom you were so close. You don't tell her. Maybe you went to the doctor and you got a negative report. And you don't want to break their heart. Yeah. You don't want to tell them. Anxiety gripped the heart of Jacob. Anxiety gripped his heart, but anxiety did something else. It weakened his faith. Wow. Regardless of how much you prayed and how spiritual you think you are, every once in a while you need to get to that place where with the writer of the ancient hymn, my faith looks up to thee, thou Lamb of Calvary, Savior divine. Now hear me. Now hear me. Now hear me. While I pray, take all my guilt away. Oh, let me from this day be wholly thine. The hymn writer further declares, while life's dark maze I tread, and griefs around me spread, be thou my guide. Bid darkness turn to day. Wipe sorrows, tears away. Nor let me ever stray from thee aside. Anxiety gripped him, his heart, and weakened his faith. Can I tell you that fear and faith are opposites? Jacob felt God was against him and he acted accordingly. When our faith is weak, we act to God, or we behave in a manner to God as we perceive him behaving to us. And it's like we're saying, if some things happen to us, I remember years ago, I was in this very church, 2000, 2006 or 2004, I'm not. And after I finished the exhortation and was giving an altar call, I saw a deacon running towards the altar. And I thought, my God, I must have preached a powerful message, because this deacon is running to the altar. But he took me by the side and he said, your house is on fire. So while I'm here preaching, my house is on fire. Whilst the dust settled and everything calmed down, a few months later I met a gentleman, and he said to me, so Reverend, I heard your house burned. And I said, yes. He said, well, these are the things I'm saying to you. You're a preacher, right? And everything you do, you say is for God. And then he said, and God sit down and let your house burn down? So he said, explain that to me. And sometimes we behave in the exact manner. We're saying, God, you see how faithful I am. God, you know if I'm sick, I can't do this. God, you know what I've done and all the things that I've done. And if you want to just sit there and let this illness or let this situation get the better of me, then go ahead and make my day. And you know the good thing about it is that God doesn't chastise and deal harshly with us. Hear the writer of the ancient hymn, he is tender and loving. Oh, yeah. And he's so patient with me. Then the writer then says, because of how God has dealt so kindly with him, he said, well, you know something? I will cling to my Savior, and I will never depart. I will joyfully journey each day with a song in my lips and a song in my heart, that my sins are all taken away. They are nailed to the cross. They are nailed to the cross. Oh, how much he was willing to bear, with what anguish and loss. Jesus went to the cross, and he carried my sins with him there. Give the Lord some praise and honor. Jacob was not only weary, but he was worried. Fear keeps us from receiving God's best. Faith enables us to give our worries to Jesus. 1 Peter 5:7 says, casting all your cares on him, because he cares for you. When we feed our faith in God's words, our fears will starve. We can starve our fears to death. Fathers, on this Father's Day, do not feed your fears. Do not encourage your fears. Starve your fears to death. Feed your faith. Your faith will kill your fears. Yes. Oh, thank you. Let me conclude. Jacob was worried. Jacob was weary. Let me say finally, Jacob was wrong. Things would turn out much better than he expected. Can I tell you, father who is weary and worried, that God's going to prove you wrong if your faith would rise? Yeah. God had been at work on Jacob's behalf all the time. Yeah. Even when the circumstances and the situations around him and the set of circumstances seem to be upside down and everything's just getting out of control, God was fixing it all the time. God was working all the time. God had sent Joseph down in Egypt. Ain't nobody knew. The brothers thought they were doing him a disservice. The brothers did it out of resentment. How many of you know that sometimes persons who resent or hate you do you some stuff, and little do they know that they are just pushing you on to your promotion. Can I get a witness in the house? Jacob was wrong. God had been at work on Jacob's behalf. Joseph was alive and thriving. While Jacob thought that Joseph was dead, Joseph was doing extremely well. And maybe God can turn your darkness into light. He can turn your mourning into dancing by sending Benjamin. Jacob would see Joseph.
Yes, Lord.
By sending Benjamin.
Yes.
Oh, sometimes God asks us to do some things. We say, God, you know you're unreasonable. You know, God, you really have no conscience. Hello, somebody. You know, I didn't expect you would do this to me. I know you would do that to persons who have not served you. There are people out there who don't even know the Lord's Prayer, and you don't ask them that. You took Simeon. You took Joseph. And now the last little one that I love, you want him to go as well. May I say in closing, Joseph would provide food and a home for Jacob's family. Joseph would care for Jacob in his old age. All things were not against Jacob. Jacob was weary. Jacob was worried. But Jacob was wrong. For if God be for us, who can be? Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for the Holy Spirit. Thank you for this gentle reminder to your people, and particularly to the fathers who are weary, fathers who are worried, fathers who will be proven wrong when Jesus takes over. Bless your people.